Whether or not you loved or hated this movie, you gotta admit one thing. That One Direction joke was pretty hilarious. It just was, man. So Kick-Ass 2 is the sequel to Kick-Ass 1, obviously, man. And in Kick-Ass 2, it takes place 3 years after the events of Kick-Ass 1. And Kick-Ass and Hit Girl are no longer known as Kick-Ass and Hit Girl. They're just known as Dave and Mindy. But they see on TV this group of like wannabe superheroes that were inspired by Kick-Ass called Justice Forever. And it motivates Dave and Mindy to get back in the game and become superheroes again. And all the while that's going on, Red Mist, Red Mist is filled with anger and vengeance, and he decides that he's going to become the first, the world's first supervillain, and becomes the villain that's known as the Motherfucker. And thus, Kick-Ass, Hit Girl, and Justice Forever have to stop him, which is basically the plot in this movie, anyways. Now I love Kick-Ass 1. It's like one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. It has so much replay value to it. I loved how faithful it was to the comic book and so forth, and just loved how irreverent and bloody and really over the top it was. So when it came to the sequel, I was anticipating it, but at the same time I was a little cautious because Matthew Vaughn, who directed the first Kick-Ass, wasn't coming back to direct the second Kick-Ass. He's a producer on Kick-Ass 2, but the new director of this Kick-Ass is a guy named Jeff Wadlow. And Jeff Wadlow is the dude who did Never Back Down and so forth. And, I was a little bit worried because Never Back Down I thought was an okay movie. But I personally thought that I would get that feeling from Kick-Ass 2. I was afraid I'd walk out of Kick-Ass 2 saying, oh, it was an okay movie, you know what I mean? And luckily, it didn't disappoint, man. Kick-Ass 2 was fantastic. I mean, I enjoyed it as much as the first Kick-Ass, I think what makes this Kick-Ass so good is the fact that it still feels like the same old Kick-Ass that we all, know and love. It's still got that same type of, tone. It's still got that same over-the-top action and violence that we all have grown to love. But at the same time, you do feel like that the characters, have grown. It does feel like a sequel in sort of ways. Like take, Kick-Ass, played by Aaron Johnson. I mean, in the first Kick-Ass, I mean, he was pretty whiny, and he was just really, really inexperienced. And I like how in this one you can tell he's had more. You can tell he's gotten a lot more experience. He still acts like the same old sort of dorky Kick-Ass, but he feels a lot more like a legit superhero this time around. And Aaron Johnson, once again, is fantastic as Kick-Ass. I can't wait to see what he brings to Quicksilver in Avengers Age of Ultron. That's going to be great. And then you got Christopher Mintz-Plasse, who plays the Motherfucker. Now, he was hilarious as the Motherfucker. I mean, Christopher Mintz-Plasse is in this movie. He's kind of like McLovin's evil twin brother. He's just so evil and menacing, but yet so goofy. Like there's this scene where he's dressed up as the Motherfucker, and he's giving his like speech to his evil army, and he's got this huge layer with a DJ and so forth, and he says the DJ just playing around, dude. It's awesome. Of course, Chloe Grace Moretz returns as Hit Girl, and I was kind of worried about how they would do a teenage Hit Girl, because in the comic books, Kick-Ass 2 takes place literally few days after the events of Kick-Ass 1, and Hit Girl's 12 years old, and this one she's 15. So I was wondering how they would do a teenage Hit Girl. I was wondering if they would have sort of the same, the Hit Girl scenes would have the same sort of impact as they did in the first one, you know what I mean? And they still do. There's this whole storyline going on of Hit Girl in high school, and how she has to choose between whether she should be Hit Girl or she should be Mindy McCready. And I love the high school scenes, especially her scenes with these teenage girls, because these teenage girls they're basically the mean girls of the new generation, you know what I mean? And I just love how Hit Girl snaps back at them, how Hit Girl just snaps back at them in her Hit Girl way and so forth. And especially that scene, there's a scene in the cafeteria. I'm not going to give it away. That scene had me dying. I was laughing so hard, man. I was laughing so hard I was going to puke up. I thought I was going to puke up a lung. You know what I mean? It was that hilarious. And the Justice Forever guys, like the wannabe superheroes as I call them, are really cool too. Like Turk from Scrubs is in this movie. He plays Dr. Gravity, and he's really cool. Like I love his his partnership with Kick-Ass, and I love the scenes between the two of them together. It's pretty funny, and that dude doesn't age. I was watching because I have the entire Scrubs series on DVD, and like I was watching the first couple episodes of Scrubs, and I was like, man, Turk hasn't really aged a day, dude. It's crazy. So there's that. And then you got, of course, the show stealer, the one I really got to talk about, Jim Carrey as Colonel Stars and Stripes. And Colonel Stars and Stripes is the leader of Justice Forever. And when I heard Jim Carrey was cast as Colonel Stars and Stripes, I was like, that's awesome, because the Colonel Stars and Stripes character in the comic books is such a really cool and funny character. And second of all, it's Jim Carrey, man. I mean, Jim Carrey is one of my heroes. He's been one of my heroes since I was a kid. I remember as a kid I'd watch Liar Liar, The Mask, Dumb and Dumber, the Ace Ventura movies, Bruce Almighty, The Grinch, The Cable Guy, just all of them. I'd watch them thousands and thousands and thousands of times. I could quote those movies from the back of my head, man. And it's really great seeing Jim Carrey in this role, because he doesn't do, I think, the Jim Carrey that we've been used to seeing. And I say that because Jim Carrey plays two types of people in movies. He usually plays the really funny, eccentric people, types of people in Dumb and Dumber, Ace Ventura, Liar Liar, Mask, and so forth. Or he'll just play a dead straight serious guy like in Man on the Moon, or Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, or Truman Show. You know what I mean? And I just like how Carrey in this movie, he just plays like this the straight up serious yet violent and somehow still hilarious dude. In fact, he didn't even look like Jim Carrey. Like, he's got these prosthetics on him, and he's got a different voice, because in this movie Jim Carrey talks like this. He's got like a Brooklyn accent going on here to like disguise his voice. He's like, hey, Kick-Ass, try to have fun, otherwise what's the point? If there's anything I do say I had a problem with this movie, is that I'm trying really hard not to spoil it, so this is my best attempt to try not to spoil it, but there's this story point that happens that one of the characters gets affected by another character, and as a result of that, that character frankly didn't get what I felt they deserved, and I was just kind of like, really? I mean, that character was a moron. That character knew what was gonna happen, kind of knew what they were getting themselves into, and I'm just like, really? And they're not gonna like have any sort of type of, I was kind of hoping they would kind of resolve that issue, and they didn't. But that's my only my only little gripe with it. But on the other hand, Kick-Ass 2 I thought was just a fantastic superhero movie. It's a great sequel to Kick-Ass 1. I can't wait to buy it on Blu-ray when it comes out and put it right next to Kick-Ass 1. It's a great movie. Stay after the credits, by the way. There's a really funny end credits scene. I'm not gonna say what it is, but yeah, I may give Kick-Ass 2 an A-. I suggest you totally check it out as a way to end your summer. And yeah, that's my 2 cents on Kick-Ass 2. So yeah, what did you think of Kick-Ass 1 and Kick-Ass 2, and what do you like better, Kick-Ass 1 or Kick-Ass 2, and so forth? Me, I like them both the same way. But if I had to choose between one, if you had to put a gun to my head and say, oh, dude, pick Kick-Ass 1 or Kick-Ass 2, I'd say I probably Kick-Ass 1 by just a tiny bit. You know what I mean? But yeah, man, that's just my thoughts on Kick-Ass 2. So yeah, take care.